Hey, welcome to episode 101 of the PoddyC. This week, Max is already started with heroic splits. Dorky and I, we've been doing our gearing up characters. Actually, the question I have for you, Dorky, is how has the delves been for you? Have you been engaging? Did you kill? Are you a fabled vanquisher of Neleus?
I actually missed out on the opportunity to be unemployed and play on the first day.
Oh
You
my
see,
goodness.
I was one of the unfortunate ones that just like I could have gotten it, but all of these super try hard nerds that are completely unemployed are just going in there and killing it before we even get a chance.
Yeah. So in NA, it lasted for like 14 hours after the servers came up or something, 15 hours. In EU, I think it lasted
Eight
until like
hours, I
2 p.m.
believe.
EU time for there because it's like region separate Hall of Fames, which it would have been so funny if it wasn't because it would have just closed before EU got a chance to even get one. Um,
That would have been amazing.
but yeah, it's definitely a decision of all time to make delves this like casual friendly time chill format and then release a hall of fame that closes such that if you have a job you can't get it.
I mean,
uh
so that's only because this boss is so much easier than whatever her face, right? Kaiveza.
Kaiveza, I don't know, I think if you put 4,000 Kaiveza slots up there people are getting it because Kaiveza isn't like it's not a gear check, right? You just have to execute a hard fight for 15 minutes and then if
Yeah,
you're
but
geared you have to execute it for 8.
well, a large part of the controversy behind this specific boss and Leia, whatever, is if you were a tank or a healer, you had
Right.
a significantly easier time, right? Like I actually have one of my friends who's like a tourist, and he just like came back to playing WoW for the first time since Shadowlands, and I was like, hey, go try it out, and he actually just got it in like his like second or third try as a disc priest.
Right, but that was true of Kaiveza as well, right? Like Kaiveza was like way easier if you were a tank, I think, than a non-tank because you just didn't
It was, but
actually.
it still required you to like do the mechanic, right? Like whereas this
Yeah,
one, there were no actual mechanics. You just like hit the buttons, and as long as you're
dude,
not completely trolling.
it's so like buggy. Delves right now scaling. I don't know. It feels like you just pick it, like if you change a Valera between tank, healer, and DPS, the entire fight changes. And not just because
Well,
like
Delves
oh
in
she gets all
general,
the
right?
kicks versus getting all the spells, but yeah, it's like if you don't have a tank, Neleus doesn't do his tank buster. But if you 5-man it and you do have a tank, but you make Valera a DPS, he does his tank buster. But if you make Valera a healer and you have another healer, then he doesn't do his tank buster. This is because my guild, we've been doing like Neleus 5-man attacks
The
for
crest,
the
yeah.
crest, right? So like we've tested a couple of these different configurations, and some of them are just randomly nuclear easy. Like he doesn't do his tank buster again. If you can have a tank and not have him do the tank buster if you do it right for some reason. I don't know what's going on with it, but yeah, it feels like delves in general. You zone into a delve and it's like, how hard is this? And the answer isn't really based off of your gear or Valera level. It's like the combination of your spec and Valera's spec, and like that I don't know. It just seems off to me.
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, it's not just Neleus too, because
Mhm.
I've noticed. So I've been doing a lot of group delves, right? In fact, this is probably like the most delving I've done in like a singular expansion or in a singular patch in forever. And yeah, I've definitely noticed there's like some insane inconsistencies with how your group composition is. I don't really know how it works exactly, but generally speaking, the more people you have in your delves, the worse it is. It goes so slow. Some of the bosses are like straight up impossible. I don't know if you've encountered that one boss that spawns the shadow orbs. I actually
Oh,
lost a tier 8 delve to that boss.
solo or in a five person?
No, in a 5-man group.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was playing
You
with
have
some of my
you just have no
friends.
DPS. You're not going to beat the check.
Yeah, you just get like the orbs are like 2 mil HP each or some shit, and you have to kill 3 of them before you can kick the guy.
Yeah,
And if you don't kick, you instantly lose.
dude. The Neleus fight as well. When the ads spawn, their health doesn't scale up to 5 people for like 5 seconds. So if you just dunk a big ol' like convoke into them or whatever, feral frenzy, some big damage into them right after they spawn, you can basically kill them instantly. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that happening. I didn't notice that's what it was.
Yeah, it's wild. The I don't know, the delve inconsistent. It's like it seems like it shouldn't be a big deal. The other thing as well is Valera does so much damage, but it's like it feels like you're just kind of rolling the dice. Like on one pull, she might be literally AFK. She might be running to pull a random other pack that will wipe you, or she might just one shot the mobs in the pack. And you're like, what is happening here?
You know, when I was playing last expansion, I was not a fan of Bran, and you know, maybe I thought it was just because he was like so silly or whatever. And then, like, you know, they're like, oh, but now we have Valera, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I like Valera from HOTS. Like, wow, it's a OG character. And then now I'm just like so sick of Valera. I feel like Blizzard is just trying to make us hate our followers, and it's also like not only is she really annoying, she just repeats the same line over and over, but she's also just the worst coded AI ever. She just like randomly pulls stuff or just like runs around and does nothing sometimes. Like, I don't know.
Dude, if you leave your computer for like 1 minute, you get back and Valera will have spammed 50 messages at you. Yep. And it's just 2. She only has like 2 messages and she just alternates between the 2 of them when you're AFK. I have like wireless headsets in, so I made the mistake once of going to the bathroom while in a delve, right? And I just was hearing her spam these at me over and over again.
No, that's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. The tank Valera as well is just like, from the healers I've heard, it's quite bad. Quite a bad experience to zone in. Like, you will have a better time as a healer healing DPS Valera as a tank than healing tank Valera. And Neleus as well. There's like all these healer strats where if you don't ever hit Neleus and you just heal Valera, that's like easier than if you ever hit Neleus and then you get threat.
That's the cheese that people were talking about?
Yeah, if Valera's DPS spec'd, not tank spec'd, because if she's tank spec'd, she's much worse at tanking Neleus, of course. But if she's DPS spec'd, she's much better at tanking him. So, yeah, I don't know. It feels very... if Neleus feels badly tuned on like single player, and then just the tuning has fallen off the cliff when you get to 5, right? Like, it's just like all kinds of weird. Again, he just doesn't do his whole spell queue depending on your group composition. So it's a mystery. It's a mystery to me how this happened, but it's pretty bad.
It's definitely not a great Nemesis boss compared. Oh, I mean, at least compared to Kai'Veza. But it's pretty similar to the first guy that came out. I forgot whatever.
Oh yeah, the Zekbeer.
Yeah, they're very similar.
So the fight itself, it's definitely like there's not a lot going. Most of the difficulty in that fight is finding a way to survive the auto attacks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're either trying to live the melee attacks, or you're trying to kill the ads in time,
right?
Or you're trying to burn the boss.
I don't mind the like
burst
down the ads gameplay. I think if you RNG into a spec Valera combo where the hard part is killing the ads when they spawn, and you have to like hold CDs or hold lust for that, I think that's kind of fun. None of mine were that. All of mine were survive the auto attacks. Dude, Blood Decay. When I walked in on my 230 Blood Decay, I literally got globaled by the first.
Yeah, the tank buster.
Yeah, not even the tank buster. Like, I was getting white swinged out. It was absolutely tough out there. But then I got some gear and it was a little bit easier. But you know, I just did the Hall of Fame on Brewmaster instead. That was a lot easier. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of several like strangely unpolished for how, like, especially delves are supposed to be like a central pillar now, right? They're like one of the main ways that people interact with PvE, and this, I don't know, just they feel it also like the disparity from delve to delve. The Grudge Pit just takes like 70 years to do, and God forbid, dude, we did a 5-person tier 8 Grudge Pit. That took, I think, genuinely 30 minutes to.
I did the exact same thing you did.
You target a mob and you're like, this guy has 47 million HP and he's like a regular, regular guy.
Yeah, the Nemesis, right?
What is happening? Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually ridiculous. I mean, like, the delves have definitely been a huge improvement this expansion, and I've definitely had a much better time doing them. Although, to be fair, I think a large part of it is because I'm just like playing with a bunch of friends who are kind of like noobs, right? And doing them in a group of friends is kind of just like an activity that we can do, and it's kind of nice. But yeah, it just feels extremely off, because if I'm soloing it with a DPS Valera, it's so much easier. it feels like I have no reason to ever really play with my friends. But you know, when I'm playing with my friends, it becomes a complete slog.
Yeah, it feels like it's designed for, you know, casual group play, and then it gets way harder in casual group play, and it's designed for like employed gamer dads, and then the whole of the, you know, they make a pinnacle version of it that only the 4,000 least employed individuals on the planet were able to get.
I think it would have been fine if they had something similar to that. Like they could have maybe just made it so that if you killed on the first week and not
Yeah,
necessarily the top 4,000, that could have been fine.
yeah. I'm not sure.
'Cause
I'm
it's kinda
curious
cool
if they'll
having
do it
some type of
again.
prestige.
There's been a couple of other strange, unpolished bits of this expansion. Like, I don't know if you've engaged with crafting this expansion, but if you try to get like plate bracers, that's fine. You can just craft them. If you put all your points into plate bracers, you can make them. You can make them rank 5. If you want to make cloth cloaks, except for the spark cloak, if you want to make the PvP or the veteran crest cloak, they're just randomly nuclear difficulty, and you don't have enough points to do it without concentration. And it's like, I don't know why it is that way, but it's like, and it's easy. It's much easier to make a 286 cloak than a 246 cloak in terms of like the amount of the difficulty of the craft. So that was another thing where I was just looking at this and like, what is happening here? And also, dude, there's a helm enchant. You know those helm enchants where they put those weird little trinket texts on them? Or it's like, you get a little benefit. One of them is that you gain vigor after you kill a person in the outdoor world, like you kill a mob in the outdoor world, which vigor has notably been removed from the game. So that's just
what's that? Is that like some like it's on the tooltip?
Yeah, it's like the empowered hex of speed, I think is what it is. Let me check. See if this is still in empowered hex of speed or
that is
hex of
interesting.
speed. Wait, where's this thing? Helm. Okay, it's the empowered blessing of speed. Grants 1 vigor when you defeat a foe while outdoors in midnight zones once per 30 seconds.
That is
but
crazy.
There's just no vigor in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't noticed these in particular, but there have been a bunch of issues that I've noticed. Like just trying to use a beacon in one specific delve doesn't work. There was a whole profession crafting thing that was happening, that exploit where apparently people got banned for a week.
Yeah, so that
but
one
I don't know if they did anything about the damage done to the market, right?
I think they did. They couldn't they didn't undo transactions or anything like that, but what they did do is they set them to 0 knowledge. So at least when they get unbanned, they are going to be further behind. So for anybody who hasn't followed this story, if you went to, I think it was just a Void Storm renown vendor, and then you bought a profession book and then used it before closing the window, you could buy another one and you could just keep using them. So you needed a stockpile of Void Light Marl, and you could go through your whole one. And you also needed to like move the book to your bars, because you couldn't, if you just right clicked it in your bags, it would just sell it back, right? So, and if you ever closed the window, so it was pretty much impossible to do this by accident. You had to take like a very deliberate chain of actions to do this that you would never do with normal gameplay. But yeah, there were people that did that and then got, you know, full knowledge out. But yeah, they have been set back, but obviously there was some money to make that was made with this. It was last week at least, so I don't think there was like if it had been this week, I think there would have been huge profits to be made from it.
And yeah, just like in general, there's been like so many
the catalyst bug
stuff. Yeah, the catalyst bug, dude. I can't believe I didn't get to abuse that early on.
Yeah, one person in my guild, like, and this is one of the things where there's no way you can get banned for this, because you literally are just playing the game normally and you get extra catalyst charges if you were lucky enough to get handed. So the way it worked is the achievement where you get the catalyst unbound, which is like, hey, once you make 4-piece, catalyst charges start dropping everywhere. That was account wide for about 2 days. So if you got 4-piece on Tuesday or Wednesday, you could then get 4-piece on your alts by spamming, I think arenas was the fastest way to do it, but just any content that gives those bonus catalyst charges. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, they killed it quickly enough that I don't think many people got to, benefit from it. And it's not like it only helps your alt, right? So
But yeah, like I
don't.
mean, do they even really need to fix it? Like, is it not
So
fine to just like keep it in the game?
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's kind of hard to tell if the game would be better or worse if it worked like that, because like once you know it works like that going into a tier, the incentive, for instance, to do like a split goes way up, right? Because you can just give somebody's main tier pieces by giving their alt tier pieces, right? So some of the power of doing extra runs of the raid goes way higher. So maybe there'd be more incentive for guilds that don't currently split to do it, or like fall farther behind the guilds that do. Definitely, like for the Race to World First, it would have changed a lot. The amount of characters they prepared would have been way fewer if they didn't need if the tier just worked this way all along. So for us, like for me personally, I ended up getting tier on an alt because I got Warbound plate tier. So like right now, my main is currently planned to be my monk, although it's pretty uncertain. But I got Warbound plate tier, and then I did LFR and I got a tier piece. So then I was able to catalyze tier and then do PvP and catalyze tier with that. And then that's 4-piece. And then that would just be account wide, right? Like I would just have account wide 4-piece without ever getting handed a piece of tier from like, normal or heroic raid, which is pretty funny. So should the game work that way? I don't know. I mean, it'd be in a lot of ways, it'd be really chill. I mean, it's pretty close to just basically like free 4-piece for everybody who does multiple raids. But at that point, I feel like just make 4-piece. I feel like at that point, like, I don't know, I would feel bad for people that just do like one run, because those would be the people that would just be still at the mercy of like getting 4-piece.
I mean, I think those guys would
4.
want it too. The thing is, like, if you've unlocked your foresight once, you kind of just want it on all your characters, right? Like,
right? Yeah, I mean, it would be nice for everybody's alts. It's just like it would be nice for the split raiders mains on the first week, even, which
yeah, I mean, they're definitely gonna abuse it more.
Yeah, like obviously people who do splits already get super geared, but like right now, my guild runs 3 splits, for instance, and we don't all get 4-piece week 1, and we would all get 4-piece week 1 by a lot if it worked this way. So I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is, I think it would be nice if it worked this way, but I also think that if they do make it work this way, they should buff tier acquisition for non-split raiders as well, because I think that would feel even worse, and it would even more guilds would like see the value of it. And you'd start, how you have these guilds where it's like, yeah, we raid 3 nights and we have an optional, normal night or whatever, optional.
Except it's not actually
night.
Optional.
And it's not actually optional. Yeah. The amount of guilds where it's like, and we do an optional alt run. And hey, if you want tier on your main, you probably want to come to the optional alt run now, because it drops tier pieces that will, work on your main, basically.
Yeah,
right?
and if you don't have tier 7, we probably won't get you into.
Yeah, then you just don't get to play this tier, right? Like I feel like if they made this system work this way for a full season and they didn't buff generic tier acquisition, that would be something that would become more common. So I would.
Okay, but I mean, that's another discussion that I want to have too. Like, this is gonna be a bit of a tangent, but
go for it. Max isn't here to stop us. Also, he doesn't care about tangents anyway, normally. But
yeah. Splits have been out of control, man. Like I don't know if we talked about this before, but so Tedo's made a new video about the history of Race to World First, right? And he was talking about how, like, back in the old year, these Race to World First super sweat tryhards, non-employed, were doing 3 characters, right? 3 character splits, and if they were like really pushing it, they were doing 4. And then I'm just like thinking, like, bro, that's how many splits Drogo's guild does nowadays for like a couple tiers now. They're doing 3 splits. And then like a couple of days ago, one of my friends who is like, somewhat casual tourist player, her guild was like a rank 1,000-ish. And those guys do splits too. Like, what is going on, man? Like, splits have just gone out of control. It's one of those things where it's trickled down big time. And I don't know if we can ever go back to a non-split world. I mean, the easiest solution would just be to have loot be more deterministic, right? Like that would easily solve it, but obviously Blizzard doesn't want to go down that direction, and it just sucks that we just live in a world of splits to avoid RNG early on of looting gear.
Yeah, I think to some extent it's one of those things where like you're never going to stop the race to world first from getting more degenerate over time and like using the full 16 hours of awake hours or
Yeah, it's
14
just a
hours
problem
of
when
like
everyone
healthy
else is
awake
doing it
hours.
too.
But yeah, I think it is a problem when guilds when a rank 1,000 guild is doing splits. And it's not because they all love alts and want to do extra runs, right? It's because they are doing splits to funnel mains, right? Like that I think is an important distinction as well. People doing alt runs for fun, that's great. That is super fun. But yeah, the amount of guilds that don't enjoy splits but feel kind of obligated to do it, it grows every tier. I think there's this effect with the generosity of gearing as well, where as Blizzard makes gearing more generous, splits get more attractive up to a certain peak, and then they can make splits less attractive by making gear more generous past that point, right? Like it's hard to describe it, but I think that yeah, it's like
I see what you're saying.
a bell curve thing, right? Where it's like the attractiveness of splits goes up until it stops going up and starts coming down again. And I think right now this amount of generosity of gear is like pretty close to the peak of making splits attractive for people, right? Where it's like, yeah, you can gear your alt kind of painlessly, right? Like you can do a couple of nightmare hunts and stuff and get full gear on your alts. So it's not like doing splits is prohibitively hard in the sense of preparing a decent alt. Because if you think back to like Legion or something like that, maintaining extra characters was a huge cost, and it was a cost that made your main worse. But that's not true anymore, right? And the raid is rewarding enough where it's like, yeah, you get a bunch of extra loot on your mains. You can kill the bosses on heroic pretty much just as easily in split runs for a lot of guilds, right? Like if you're a cutting edge guild, at least up to Crown of the Cosmos. Probably not Crown of the Cosmos this week for those sorts of guilds, but at least up to Crown of the Cosmos, if you can do it on your mains, you can probably do it in a split. Which, yeah, basically it's like it's the perfect intersection of it being easy enough to gear that splits are good, but not too easy that you don't need them, right? And I think Blizzard should just give that little push to move us to easy enough that you don't need them. That people doing splits are doing it again for a small advantage, not a big advantage.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially exacerbated by Heroic Week because I think a large reason why people are doing so many splits this time around, or maybe not this time around, but like just early in the expansion, is because of the existence of Heroic Week, right? It's like normally you have limited time as a player, especially if you are a wagey.
Yeah.
You might have to spend your time doing M plus instead, right? Like that's extremely valuable. Or you might have to spend time
if M plus
getting
was
ready
out,
for Mythic Raid.
people would want to be on their mains doing keys, right? Like
yeah, except it's like there's not much else to do right now. It's a choice of between doing splits or just going back to doing more delves or pray or something, right?
Yeah, so it feels like turbo inefficient not to, and there's sort of this ratchet effect where. So I felt this in last expansion and the one before, where it's like, okay, you have Heroic Week for the first season of the expansion, so everybody makes a bunch of characters, and then for the next season, you're like, well, we already have all these characters.
Yep.
They're already in gear from last tier. And then you stick with it. So the amount of splits only ever goes up. It never goes down, right? No guild is ever like, oh yeah, we did 3 splits last tier. Let's go down to 2 because we don't need to this tier. It's like, well, we have 3 characters. Everybody's already got 3 characters. We proved that it can work, right? So
it's like rating hours too. The amount of rating hours have gone up so much over the years. People used to only like be 9 to 12 hours a week guild, and those were considered like pretty try hard. And now those guilds are doing like anywhere from 12 to 20 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my guild, I think we used to be 14 because it was like 3.5 times 4. I don't remember for sure. We used to be a late night guild, and we definitely used to raid fewer hours than we currently do. Now we raid 20, 24, if we're being honest. Like we're raiding 20 this week. Well, we're raiding 16 this week because we're only doing 3 splits and we're going to run out of stuff to do. So
do you guys also do the thing where early in the patch you do a little bit extra?
So that was the thing, is we had this thing where we were like, yeah, we add a Saturday or 2, and then we got to a point where the tier only lasts a couple of weeks for us. So we're like, okay, let's just put the Saturday on the calendar, right? And stop pretending that, we're not going to raid that day. So, yeah, Yeah, it's not like a functional change, but I think we are up to being a technical 24-hour guild instead of a like de facto 24-hour guild now. Yeah, now we start power creeping somewhere else, find another thing to start slowly adding.
Yeah, I mean, I find that to be a little bit less egregious because, like, when people want to play more of it, it's like, sure, it's fine, you can play more.
Mm.
But usually, when it comes to splits, that's like something where people don't usually want to do. Like, I'm not gonna say for everyone. Obviously, some people do enjoy splits, but most people are doing it specifically for the gear and not because like they find it fun to just be on some shitty character going into raid.
In my guild, there was definitely a long discussion about whether we should go up to 4 because we're looking at it. And like I said, right, we raid like 24 hours during Mythic. If you use 24 hours efficiently during Heroic Week, you can do 5 splits for sure, right? Like 5 is, we're going to get 3 done in 16. So we made a disciplined decision of like, this will be less fun, even though it will be better. We will have to do some more PvP to get our 4 sets and stuff, but we're overwhelmingly we would rather do that than do a 4th or a 5th split, right? So that was the decision we made this year. But like, it's one of those things where if you're used to optimizing and looking at things and looking at the resources you have, and you're like, hey, we're not going to get everybody 4-piece. Like, what if we get everybody 4-piece? That would be really nice. Let's add an extra split, right? Like that decision, that is a very easy logical path to go down, and I can't guarantee that we won't make the different decision next time, right? Like there are a lot of people in the guild who would prefer we do it that way, like who would have wanted that 4th split for that reason, because the incentives are there for it right now, right? Like any amount of hours that you raid with a Heroic Week, you would want to do an extra split, right? It's just so good.
Yeah, I mean, I will say though, I said this last week, it's been pretty refreshing only having 7 bosses this week. Because like when I was doing my splits, we got to around council, and I'm like, oh boy, like we got to do another day of splits tomorrow. But then like I realized like, wait, we're actually like almost done. Like it's literally just Illyria left, and that's been such a relief. Because like when you add so many bosses to the raid and you're having to do splits on them, it's such a slog.
Yeah. I actually, so I've been like on the record saying that I think they should go to 10 bosses. I do like there's a few bosses you can't do the first week.
Yeah, I like the split approach. The whole, well, not like splits, but like the split, the raid, and have them time gated a bit. It's actually really nice to be like looking forward to next week. Okay, there's gonna be March of Keldanos, and then maybe if they like push this even a little bit more to where we have like another boss come out in like another week after.
I don't think I would want it more than just like the 2 blocks of bosses, but I'm reminded of like the jailer tier, and I thought, okay, like there's 3
that
bosses
was kind of cool
that are and that you have this cool thing as well where it's like you actually get to be raiding, and then there is still stuff you don't know about that's coming out later this tier, right? And it's like you get that discovery process, because normally it's like, okay, we discover what the last boss does from watching the Race to World first or whatever, and but also like you just sort of see it on normal that week and heroic that week that it comes out as well. But when they delay it like this, it's like you're doing the start of the raid without knowing what the end of the raid looks like, and there is something fun about that to me. Although this tier, dude, the bosses this tier, it's like Void Spire and the Dream Rift is just 7 cleave or AoE bosses, right? And then they're just going to hit us with 2 single target bosses in the next one, it looks like, from the Dungeon Journal. So that's going to be kind of funny. I wonder if there's going to be... I kind of suspect that like the comp that is good on this Void Spire is not the same one that you're going to actually want to use in on like the very last boss of the tier. Because
oh yeah, dude, let's talk about the class tuning. Oh man, I feel like this class tuning and the whole Warcraft vlog situation is so fucked compared to usual.
Yeah, dude, the add-on situation as well is like on fire, I think is a fair way to describe what's going on with the status of add-ons in raid. But yeah, let's talk about the tuning first, and then there's some add-on things to talk about too. Yeah, tuning.
Yeah, it's
I feel
crazy.
like I feel like the fact that there's not any tank tuning coming out this coming week is a little surprising to me, because there's some tanks that are like paper AF, and then like Druid actually is. I think Druid's maybe in a fine place where it's now like doing a lot of damage, but it's not doing so much more damage that if you play defensively, I think you're gonna be doing, okay damage, and it's gonna be like a really high skill check raid tank. How do you feel about tuning? Do you have something other than, I assume you have like
So,
M plus side to look at?
well, there's that part of it too, but I actually made a video talking about the problems with Blizzard's approach to
Oh
tuning
yeah, I saw that
recently.
thumbnail.
Yeah.
I didn't click through.
So,
I'll watch it later. I won't.
well, basically what I said is they took a lot of their approach to tuning during the 17th based off of sims, right? Like the classic 5-minute single target sim with no movement, etc. Assuming you play perfect and you play like some super ridiculous build. That has not bode well for Blizzard. I mean, they nerf, so like Unholy DK, for example, they straight up nerfed that class by 20%, and they ended up buffing it back to more than what it is pre-nerf, which kind of goes to show like how ridiculous this whole notion of like tuning based off of 5-minute sims are. In fact, I mean, like, to be fair, it's not just Blizzard, right? Like everyone, well, not everyone, but like a lot of people looked at the sims and they were judging classes based off of that. Like I remember,
to be fair about Unholy, like
out,
a lot of it was bugs as well, right? It's like
it was right, but I mean, like they fixed the bugs, which ended up buffing the class, and it was still underperforming, and then they buffed it on top of fixing even more bugs. And I mean, it's still in the situation where it is right now, right, where the sims are ridiculous, but it doesn't necessarily reflect on the Warcraft logs. But then there's also like the tank side of things, right, where I basically commented on the whole Guardian Druid nerf situation, and it's kind of ridiculous to base a class off of a sim where you don't press Iron for I mean, it presses it like 17 times throughout the entire fight, which is just like completely unrealistic. And you're playing like some of the most ridiculous talent choices in order to optimize for damage, where you forgo a bunch of defensive stuff, and you're just like playing stupid trinkets and stuff like the Algothar Academy box, right? Like realistically, what kind of tank is going to be using a fucking trinket where you channel for 2 seconds?
Yeah, the old Puzzy B, which by the way, if you type Puzzy B in game, it that chat restricts that like you'll get the message that says, hey, this is not a message you can send.
Really? Why? I
assume because Puzzy is close to something else.
Oh, yeah, I see now. Like a certain cat.
It could be. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you though. Continue.
No, yeah. But it's just like it skews data big time, and not only that, but like this tier in particular, there's such a diverse damage profile that that is good for these specific fights, that it kind of like it makes certain classes look significantly better than the other ones. Like kind of like the whole Nerebar Palace Fury Warrior situation.
What you really want to be as well is you want to be a spec with a good tier set, so that you get buffed based off of like the week 1 data. And then like you look at like Demonology, for instance. Demo took a nerf this week, and their tier set maybe gives them like 2 extra DPS or something. I don't know. It's not much. It's very, very, very nothing burger tier set that they're getting. So like they took a nerf, but they were also already slated to fall off, right? And then some specs are getting buffed, and it's like, okay, but their tier set was also going to be already really good, right? So you really want to be one of those specs if you can.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like their tuning is more off than usual, and normally we'd be like, okay, this usually gets resolved, but the data has just not been there for Blizzard to like really go off of.
It's just really hard as well when the single target is usually the thing that they can be most accurate on.
Yeah,
but the raid doesn't have any single target, so like they're not. The tuning might end up being decent for Midnight Falls, but like we're not going to see that next week, right? Next week we're just going to see what looks good on these bosses. So I wouldn't be surprised if like strong-ish single target specs get buffed, right, going into the following week, and then it's like, okay, well now they're actually sick on the last boss because that one actually looks like it might be single target, or at least mostly single target. So yeah, I don't know. It's one of those weird things. Like, if you look at what they're trying to do as well, going into the season, they took Shadow Priest and they demolished Psychic Link and buffed up all the base damage, right? And then with Moonkin as well, they also did like a similar type of swing where I think they're trying to make it so that classes have less extreme, differences in damage profiles on different numbers of targets as each other. But it was a little late in the day to try and accomplish that, to try and do that like a week before the raid came out, basically. And I think we're going to see, like, you can just see from MM, for instance, what they had to do with it on, because of Lightbound Vanguard, right? The 3-target MM situation.
I mean, I'm personally of the opinion that they should keep those unique differences. Like, I get that people will probably abuse like Hunter on the council boss or whatever, but that's what makes classes unique and interesting, because they've definitely been homogenizing classes like crazy, like the whole multi-dotting situation, right? Like, they're trying to make it so that Shadow Priest and Boomkins aren't as ridiculous on Spread Cleave.
Yeah,
but that's just their uniqueness, right? And taking away that uniqueness from a dot class is just not the correct approach, I feel. I mean, they've been at war with dot classes for a long time now.
Yeah, it's been like a pendulum
where you might as well just it's like it's going back and forth, right? Like, and they always overcorrect. Like, they had the whole last expansion of Stakes and Soul Hunters and that one-on bandit fight where some of these classes are just like ridiculous, but they overcorrect by just making Psychic Link 20% now, and Boomkins are like, a lot less interesting in Spread Cleave. Like, I don't think that's the correct approach, personally.
So I have a nuanced, enlightened, centrist take on this. I think that some of the, like, having some niches is good. There are some, like, multi-dotting that, like, they do have to be really careful with, but I also think they need to stop making single target something that is, like, part of this. Like, you're just general single target damage. There shouldn't be specs that have a niche of being good or especially being bad at that. Like, if your spec is bad at that, it's just so brutal to play it, in my opinion. If you're like somebody who cares about damage, it just feels bad, even if it's good on some fights. Nobody wants to be the guy who's like, yeah, my sim is 15% worse than middle of the pack, but I do good on 3-target. Like, did you actually want to be a Moonkin in the Sticks tier, even though you were the best spec in the game on Sticks?
Yeah, you were just terrible at it.
No, you were not happy, right?
I think the bigger problem is there's not enough of equaling out of importance on different damage profiles. Like, the reality is single target damage has almost always been like some of the best in, or some of the most important profile in raid. I think that shouldn't be the case.
I think we can lock that in, though. Like, I think we can lock in and say, like, okay, look, average single target DPS, we're going to try and have that be equal for everybody. 2-target split cleave, 3-target stacked, 3-target split cleave, burst, sustained, execute, high health damage, right? Like, you come up with all these other little niches, and those you can give specs good and bad at, and then you just kind of try and keep single target aimed at the same target point as every other spec, and then like you said, you take care when you're designing a raid to make it so that, like, there are some fights that are good for Spread Cleave. There's some fights that are good for Execute, right? There's some fights that are good for burst damage. And then there's some that actually might be good for sustained damage, which it's hard to make a fight that is actively good for sustained damage, but you could do it. There have been examples of fights where a little bit of sustained was good, where you kind of just always wanted to be doing damage. But yeah, that's my
I
take.
like that approach. Yeah. So the only problem I have with that is oftentimes the builds that these characters have to go for usually forego some single target to some extent, and the classes that forego more single target tend to perform worse.
Dude, I kind of want to rant about hero talents a little bit. I feel like hero talents this expansion are in, like, such a restrictive space for what they can do with a lot of these specs. It feels like so much is baked in now or is built into the hero talents for your damage. Like, if you play Vengeance DH, for instance, you play Annihilator Vengeance DH, and all of your damage comes from Voidfall Meteors, right? It's like the only thing that
so bad
that does any damage in your kit.
I mean, that's true of the Claw situation too, right? Like, all of your damage comes from hitting Maul, so if you're not hitting Maul, you're just not doing any damage.
But what that means now is, like, if they're making a tier set for any of these specs, it's like, okay, if I make a tier set around Maul, well, now Elun's Chosen is unplayable because this is clearly
Yep.
going to be way better for Druid of the Claw, right? If I make it around, Moonfire or Thrash even, right? Like that's going to be an Elun Chosen tier set, right? And that means that like basically like the amount of levers they have to do anything with any of these specs is so low, and they've had to tune these hero talents so that they're all like 40% of a spec's damage comes from their hero talents plus Apex talents at this point, which yeah, I don't know, it just feels I kind of think I'm already like pre-excited for 13 point or 14.0 when hopefully hero talents are gone. I think that's gonna
It's
be
funny because like
a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I remember when Hero Talents first came out, we had this whole speculation like, oh, it'll probably just be like 10% of your damage, and it'll probably just be like some small little flavor. And
but I suspect what happened was they did the testing and people were pretty unsatisfied, where it's like you jump through all these hoops, you see all the animations play from your hero talent, and it does no damage.
And it just doesn't do anything. Yeah,
it
makes
so
sense.
I think they kind of backed themselves into this corner.
Yeah, I mean, they've also created all these balancing problems themselves by adding all these, like you said, levers, and it's definitely done more damage than good, the hero talents. I don't even know how much people really care about playing their specific hero talent, especially like at this point, because some of them are just so much worse. I cannot imagine being say, I'm trying to think of like the most egregious one. I don't even know what would be considered the most egregious one. Maybe like one of the hunters.
Yeah.
But yeah, like some of them where it's like a 20% damage difference. I remember Mage has like one of them too. I don't know which one it is exactly, but some of them have like a straight up 20% damage difference. And like even if you really like that flavor of hero talent, it's just not worthwhile playing.
Yeah. I think like the amount of specs that have one fun hero talent that like people mostly enjoy the hero talent special gameplay from is pretty low. And the amount that have two, I think, is basically zero. Like that, where they're also within within decent enough balance that you actually can play either. It's like, I think there was a brief period where Scale Commander and Flame Shaper had that last expansion for Evoker.
Yeah, last expansion they did like a pretty good job.
There were a few. There was like Void Weaver Archon for Shadow for a while, where those were also and like Oracle Void Weaver as well for Disc. I think there were times where it was like, oh, this is an interesting decision, but like I feel like right now there's very few specs where it's like at best you've got like, oh, this is the M+1 and this is the raid one.
Right, but I mean that's just going to happen, right? Because like you add all of these levers, like we said, when you introduce a new patch and you have like, okay, now we have Apex talents, now we have like new talent trees, we've got new tier sets. That's just going to throw all the things into a different loop, and this will just happen every single time. And they just have to they make the game harder for themselves to balance, and I feel like they probably feel it themselves, where it's like we're handling too much here. Yeah,
to some extent, like I mean, you got to do some new stuff. Making your own job harder, I think, is part of the job description for a game designer that's on a live service game at some point, because you can't just leave it the same, right? If it's like if the balance works, you kind of can't just like leave it because people will get bored. But yeah, I do feel like hero talents in particular have they've landed like on the low end of what I was thinking the range of how they might play out would have been, at the start of War Within. A bit of a shame.
Oh, and speaking of which, when we were talking about the bugs are actually a large reason why so much of the tuning is out of whack.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Unholy
so many things
was so different than what they thought. Yeah.
Apparently, Devour DH2, they have like a bug right now where their Void Ray, when you're hitting 3 targets, it's doing significantly more damage than it should be doing. So that's like another thing to look out for. Like maybe that class ends up being so much worse if they fix that bug, or it'll just be like the opposite situation. Yeah, I mean, there's just like so many things that are bugs right now. The reason why Marksman is doing so well too is because they figured out that there's a build where you play the Hydra talents instead of trick shots, and there was like some buggy interaction with one of their hero talents. Mm-hmm. So that was like something that wasn't figured out until a week or two ago.
Yeah, I've heard about some of those. Do you want to talk about add-ons as well? Because
yeah, we can go into that.
If you tuned into a Liquid stream on Tuesday, you might have been shocked to see like the cooldown tracking that nobody else can do. just Liquid can do, right? Just Race World First Guilds can do. Then Blizzard posted in the WoW add-on devs Discord, "Hey, we're coming after this. We're taking away like a bunch of these. So, but now a bunch of other add-ons now need to update to fix it. Yeah. So your add-ons might break again on Tuesday. This is a reminder to everybody, if you're listening to this podcast, update your add-ons on Tuesday, update your add-ons on Wednesday, because the Lua errors that have been slowly dying down over the last few weeks, I think, are going to be spiking back up again on Tuesday.
Yeah, so from what I understand, they fixed one of the last loopholes for secret values, because remember how we were talking about how they had, where people figured out many ways to grab secret value. This was apparently one of them. Also, apparently some add-ons are actually bannable. Did you know that?
No.
I was not aware of this. Yeah, because I remember I had a Blizzard minute that actually reached out and was like, oh, like this add-on is allowed or this add-on isn't, because there were some add-ons that were considered breaking the rules and would be bannable. So like, if there's anything that's like super sketchy, you might actually have to.
How are we supposed to? How are we as end users supposed to know that there's an add-on that is TOS to use?
Well, I would imagine if it's like something that is already like approved on CurseForge and is widely used, it's probably
okay. It's like if you're getting it from like a bootleg,
like if you're like making it your own, like if you just like make your own add-on and you're thinking that it's like smart, you can get away with it. Well, there's maybe a possibility that you can be banned.
Huh. That is quite surprising to me. Not 100% surprising, but quite surprising to me that like I know they're fixing these various things as they come up, but I didn't know there were ones that were like banned. So for instance, I know there were people that were like, "Oh my god, Liquid's cheating," but Liquid have been telling Blizzard like every thing that
I think if they didn't though, it would be considered cheating.
Maybe, yeah. So I guess I mean that's the reason why they are telling, is because they don't want to get into a situation where they, Blizzard thinks they are trying to, get around add-on restrictions and stuff like that. So yeah. I don't know. I hope that the amount of collateral damage that hits these other add-ons is pretty low, because I do not enjoy the amount of Lua errors I'm currently getting. So many of them are getting thrown by like not the add-on that's causing it as well, but by a Blizzard. Like I have the bug sack add-on, right? And you just mouse over like, oh, what's causing this bug? And so often it's like, it's not from one of the add-ons, right? It's like a Blizzard code because it's like something's tainted by a secret value. And it is usually an add-on that's doing this. It's usually not like full default UI, although there have been a few cases of full default UI Lua erroring, which, obviously super sucks. But usually it's like it is an add-on, but you can't figure out which one from that. So you're just kind of like hoping that one of the 20 updates you do between now and next week, fixes it.
Yeah.
Speaking of
I would
damage,
imagine most people's add-ons are probably fine, since this is like kind of niche, the whole secret value thing.
Well, it's any cooldown tracking that add-ons, they might, a lot of them will be able to continue to do the same thing, but they might need to be updated to work and not be doing it through one of the pathways that is now becoming like protected.
Yeah.
So like action bar add-ons, if you have bartender possibly, that kind of stuff, better cooldown manager even, maybe those kind of things, I suspect will need an update, but I have not heard that. I'm just making it up from like my understanding of how those work, which is limited to say the least. Speaking of collateral damage and add-ons, by the way, you remember the details story we talked about a couple weeks ago, where it was like exploding everybody's computer? Turns out that also was apparently collateral damage of details. Like they had those lines of code were designed to make it so that if you didn't update details for a super long time, because you were getting it from like various sites that don't keep it updated, keep it the newest version on, then rather than it like running the now super outdated version that would break and stuff, it was supposed to just wipe itself and not run. But then that code with the midnight changes ended up having a way of causing those like 500 gigabyte files on people's computers, plus the fact that it wasn't removed from some versions of details when it should have been. So a couple different things basically went wrong, some on Blizzard's end, some on details end, but none of it was like, it wasn't attempting to create 500 gigabyte files on people's computer. But if you did use details over the last couple of months, you might want to check and make sure that you don't have a 500 gigabyte file hanging out on your computer. And if you do, delete it.
Wasn't there something with MDI too that you were talking about?
Yeah, there's some of the like defensive code in there was aimed at making it so that the MDI observers couldn't use it as well.
That's funny.
Which, yeah, is funny. But again, it's
why
like,
though?
Yeah, I guess the details dev didn't want them to use it, which I suspect they won't going forward anyways, because now we've got Blizzard damage meters.
So Blizzard also uses Omni CDs, right? Or
yeah, they used to use Omni CD for like AWC tracking. I kind of expect that they will try and just use base UI stuff. I don't know. I have no idea what they're doing in AWC, but my guess is that the plan will be to do as much as you can without, with any of the new tools that are created by edit mode. I do think though, yeah, like tracking, I guess there's some stuff that would make sense for a spectator to have that doesn't work in game, right? Like tracking other people's CDs, obviously. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have something for that still. But maybe they'll like make their own, little add-on just the GM clients can use, right? Because they obviously can get around secret values.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. I've been PvPing. In fact, I PvP'd on 2 characters because I got 2 pieces of tier on 2 characters, basically. Some of it was Warbound, some of it was LFR, but it was 2 pieces on 2 characters. So I got 1600 in 3s on my
solo queue or
Unholy DK, and then I did it in Shuff on my Warrior. Shuff was way faster. Dude, Solo Shuffle. Okay, here's the lore with Solo Shuffle. Get PvP gear first before you queue up, because it's really important that you win your first few games. If you go like 0-6 2 times in a row in Solo Shuffle as your first 2 games, your MMR is going to be put to like negative 7,000 or whatever, and you are never going to be escaping. It's over. Yeah, but if you win your first 2 games, your MMR is going to be like 1,900, 1,800, something like that. And then you can literally like go 2 and 4 for another 5 games, and you'll be 1,600. Like you will gain rating up to 1,600 even as you're losing MMR, and then bang,
that's actually so stupid.
You're there. So yeah, try really hard the first game you get if you're queuing up. If you're a healer, my apologies. If you're a healer, my understanding is you typically get what they call a government mandated -3, where you just lose 3 of the rounds because it's just the combinations of DPS that tend to matter more. If there's a DPS skill imbalance and a healer skill imbalance, the DPS skill imbalance typically takes precedence in Shuffle, apparently, which is strange to me. It seemed unintuitive to me, but that's, I guess, what the PvPers and that has been the experience. A lot of my games where the healers ended up being 3-3. So
no, yeah, if you think you're screwed as a healer in PvE M+, where like your teammates don't kick and stand and shit, it's so much worse in PvP.
Yeah, it's tough out there, dude. Sometimes it's like you have this thing, but like if you go 4-0 as a DPS, games 5 and 6, you are going to be paired with somebody that you have put 0-4. So like it happened to me once where I was 4-0 going into the last round, and then the person that I queued into, like that was now my new DPS that had been my opponent for the first 4, was like on turbo tilt and was just as soon as before the gates open, he was just like, AFK, I'm AFK, this is stupid, and started raging at his old teammates. So sometimes you just can't 6-0.
Yeah, speaking of PvP too, I don't know if you've seen the new weapon enchant. Actually looks really sick.
Oh, the galactic one? Yeah. You only need to get like 1950 to get it, right? Which is that's pretty nice.
Only 1950 is tough.
Yeah, but like that kind of stuff used to be those, like a lot of appearances used to be 2100 and 2400, and now most of them, like I think 1800 is the full elite set and 1950 is the illusion, whereas it used to be 2100 and then 2400 respectively for those two. So it's easier than before to get those really cool PvP appearances. I think I might go for the illusion this season. This seems fun. And
it's really cool.
I can just shuff it up on my warrior more. I've already crafted all this stupid PvP stuff anyway, so
Yeah, so I
It's
saw a
right
Kess
there.
post this, and a bunch of the replies were like, "Oh, that is so sick. Wait, don't tell me I have to PvP for this."
Yep.
It's actually funny.
I kind of get why people are so like reluctant to PvP though. Is I feel like Blizzard doesn't make enough of the PvP incentives in the game like approachable. So many of them require you to win, and like if you look at how League does it, League has a lot of these quests where it's like win one game or play two games,
Yeah, like a
and you
participation
get
trophy,
your
basically.
first win of the day, right? Yeah. But the thing is, like those make it so when you have it be like, for instance, there's a quest where it's like, hey, win the weekly brawl, right? The weekly PvP brawl. If you queue into that 4 times and you lose all four, it's like that's such a miserable experience. That happened to me where I just queued it. 2 of the 4 times I queued in, and it was like we were down 9-0, and I was filling for somebody who AFK'd and left. And then the other 2 times it was like my team's in PvE gear and my opponent's team's in PvP gear, and you know there's a 0% chance that we're winning this thing. And it's like so demoralizing when you're not actually making progress toward. And it's the same with like rated PvP. You know, you get there's stuff you get after wins that you just don't get any progress towards, even if you play like a valiant 10-minute loss in one of these things. So I think that making PvP, like part of the reason why people feel so bad about PvP is that you just like, you so often feel like you've accomplished nothing after like an hour of bad PvP, which I don't know. Yeah. I think some participation trophies would improve that experience, and it would improve the experience for the PvPers as well, because you know the queue time would go down. More PvPers would play their game.
I mean, even back in Classic when you wanted to get rank 14, it was just as long as you showed up, right, enough times.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of room to incentivize winning still. It's just like right now the structure with a lot of it is like you get nothing if there are certain goals that you get nothing. Like for instance, okay, you win your first epic BG or whatever, your first arena skirmish, any of those things, you get 9 gladiators heraldries, right? You get a little quest, but you actually need to end up winning one of those things to get it. But often when you're going for that quest, you don't have any PvP gear because it's like the first thing you're trying to go for, right? The quest to even get a PvP trinket requires you to win 2 BGs. You can do them in training mode, but training mode is like only your teammates will suck because they're the people who are choosing to play training mode, and they buffed the bots for some reason. So like even that is hard now. You can lose those as well, which is crazy. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's also, I think there's also just a huge disconnect between PvP and the rest of the game, because PvP has been such a separate part of the game for such a long time. Like I would say for the longest time, PvP has been an integral part of World of Warcraft. Like if we go back from Classic, it might have been like, maybe like 50% of the game. And then like, as the expansions went on, it went from like 50 to World of Draenor, where it's like maybe 30% of the game. And then like, at some point it became like 20% of the game. And now it just feels like it's...
World of Draenor was when Ashran, the premier MMO PvP experience, debuted. So
dude, that's when I actually PvP'd the most. Unironically, that was when I was a strictly PvPer, and I was just permanently in Ashran. That's what we called it back then.
Yeah,
because it was just terrible. But I mean, like, it was still something, right? Like, I actually enjoyed a lot of the time I spent in Ashran. But yeah, I mean, it was actually a part of the game. It really was, and it felt that way. But nowadays, PvP is like literally a completely different game. You're not even playing World of Warcraft anymore when you're playing PvP.
Yeah. Did you know Ashran is now in the first half of the game's lifespan?
Life cycle? Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. It's more than half the game's
considered the first half. Is it?
Well, let's see. It's 2026 now. The game came out in 2004. Ashran came out in 2014. So game's 22 and Ashran's 12. So it definitely is.
That's crazy.
It's just moved over that halfway mark. Yeah. I don't know. PvP is this weird thing where like I play it a little bit, and I sometimes I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. Why don't I do this more often? Like, this is kind of fun. And then I get reminded. Like, you go on like a 3-game loss streak, and you're like, this is the worst thing to have ever happened. And somehow it's just like more miserable. I think they could fix some of it with the reward structure, but like, especially if you're in a spot where it's like, man, I literally just need 20 conquests so I can buy this thing. And then you go on like a 3-game loss streak, and you're just like, yep. This is. I
mean, it would also help if there were more players involved, because the problem with right now is like, because it's not that compelling you're just a new player going into a den of wolves, and you're just like,
Yeah.
it's a bunch of super tryhard, sweaty WoW players that have been playing PvP since day one, and they have never quit, and they have
Mhm.
never moved on to an actual PvP game like League of Legends. So they're just permanently stuck in World of Warcraft, and you know they're just like an extremely hungry pack of wolves that are just like looking to feast, and you're just like a lamb walking into your slaughter.
Yeah, exactly. That's that like some of my guildies had that. There, there are people in my guild that are like just never PvP, right? And they just kind of, just like understanding the ways that PvP is different from PvE. It's a lot, right? It's a very different thing, and so you just queue up and you just get farmed, right? And it's like this is completely miserable, right? Like, why would I do this? And the worst part is you get farmed, you're making no progress, and your queue time is 70 years. And you're just like, this is. If my tyrant GM wasn't making me get 4-piece, I would be out of here.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if there were actually like a bunch of lambs feeling compelled to enter the slaughter, then it would just be like a bunch of lambs, right? Like you wouldn't have a bunch of wolves just
I mean, the
feasting
wolves
on
could
one little
still.
poor.
They would probably, like, you think about League, right? Like League has a lot of bronze players playing, it has a lot of silver players playing, has a lot of emerald players.
Well, but
playing,
that's exactly
which is
what I
the
mean,
worst
right?
of any
Like
of those.
the problem
By the
right
way.
now is we don't have all those bronze.
Right, exactly.
Like,
It's
we
like
only have a bunch of platinum plus.
It's all platinum plus, diamond plus players, and you queue into them instantly, and you don't get to kind of learn the way up. So yeah. I don't really have huge ideas for how to fix it besides just like they should make more stuff. They should put in some detection of like, because you don't want to make it so people just queue up and concede, right? Like you got to be careful with participation trophies that there's not an incentive to do that, right? But like make it so that like, hey, if you lose your arena game but you lasted 5 minutes, right? Like you get some of the reward for winning, right? Like you get some progress towards it, right? And it's like, okay, at least I have this to aim for, and not even necessarily 5 minutes, right? But like scaling with how well you did, scaling with whether you actually did a reasonable amount of damage, those kind of like there are clever ways to detect participation beyond just winning and losing that get like Valorant, for instance, will do this where the amount of LP that you gain, right, in Valorant it scales based on how much you contributed to the win or loss, right? Like if you win but you were not doing very much, you don't get much LP. But if you win and you carried, or if you lose and you carry and you were trying your best, you carried and you did pretty well, it will like take that into account. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to do that like super intelligently, but even like a very basic version of that, I think could be used at least when you're talking about handing out rewards like Conquest that aren't really, not necessarily rating, but like Conquest is something that is not supposed to be like pulling teeth to get, which sometimes it is for some folks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that on top of just making PvP a part of World of Warcraft again. Like they need to somehow integrate it back into WoW. I mean, to be fair, I just like having more content to do in the game. Like that's part of what makes this week particularly fun for me, is because like I have all these activities I can do, right? Like
everything is like viable or is like worth doing.
It feels worthwhile, right? Like I'm going to Delves and I'm actually enjoying Delves. It's crazy for me to say this because like I always shit on Delves, but like I'm actually having a good time because I'm just like,
it's some activity
for my friends
compared to last expansion.
It's just like activity for me to fuck around with my friends, right? And then like maybe I can like go and do a prey while we like do some world questing to like get coffer keys or whatever, and everything just kind of like feels worthwhile doing, and it's kind of nice. But I also know that like literally next week everything is completely irrelevant, and the only thing I'll be doing from next week until the end of the season is M plus and raid, nothing else. And that's like, it's kind of demoralizing to know that there's like nothing worthwhile, but I get why they go with this direction.
I wonder if they couldn't give some slightly better rewards to delves and hunts and PvP.
Like, it would be nice if it's like something that you can slowly work towards,
even like a little bit. Yeah, I guess, right, you get one hero piece from your delve map per week. So that's like kind of the best from any of that. But yeah, I wonder if they could go a little bit more generous, like, because you could still farm infinite stuff from M plus if you wanted to. But like, okay, consider right now, right? Like right now, you could just do more splits, or you could do some PvP on extra characters, right? Or you can do like if you want to farm like a bunch of champion track pieces, right, you can do it in M0s, you can do it in Nightmare Hunts, right, you can do it in Delves. All of them are options. And, the super high end players are probably doing most or all of those, but making it so it's like you can kind of just choose like, hey, if you want 10 pieces of hero loot next week, you can do kind of any combination of Delves and, PvP even, which PvP has no hero loot, but Delves, PvP, raid, hunts, like, and then if you want like 50 hero pieces, yeah, maybe you end up running out of the non-M plus sources, but I don't know. I feel like that would be an interesting thing to try.
One thing they did do kind of well last expansion is there were some really good heroic trinkets from Delves. And while they might not be like bis, they were actually worthwhile doing to get until you have your actual bis. So like the suspicious energy drink, right?
Yeah.
Like that was one of the trinkets that was insanely good for a lot of mastery users. There was also that lens or whatever. The
funhouse lens.
Like an on use. Yeah. The on use haste trinket. Like that was also really good. Like I think that's a great way of incentivizing doing Delves on while like not making it the best source of gear.
Yeah. I don't know. I think so. One thing they have now as well is I think later in the Delve journey, you're going to be able to target buy Delve trinkets at the end of Delves too. So I think that's kind of important if you make a Bis Delve trinket, because otherwise it sucks to run a bunch of Delves and not get the Bis trinket. It's just because they put in some where it's like 3-minute on use, gain 20 leech. You're like, is this a good trinket? No. But then
there's a trick this season that fears you after it expires. That one's so fucking annoying.
That one is so funny. Speaking of fearing you, that is the big thing with the debuffs in raid situation. So it was like the debuff on the dragon boss is not impossible, but it's like pretty hard to see on a lot of UIs when somebody has that debuff. And it was a private aura as well. Now Blizzard unprivated that aura, but there are a bunch of other dispels in the raid that are still private auras. I don't know.
And the problem is you can't filter any of that shit. Like I don't know how Blizzard still doesn't have any proper built-in filtering.
Well, the problem is they did this thing a couple weeks ago where they panic turned almost everything in the raid into a private aura. So basically, like auras can be unprotected, which is basically none of them now. Secret values, which is sort of medium protection, and then private auras, which is the full like turbo uninteractable by add-ons. Secret values basically can be like, they can be passed around by add-ons and interacted with in some ways, but you can't like, the add-on can't make decisions based off of what they are. Private aura is basically the only thing add-ons can do is like change where your private aura window is. And in some places play text-to-speech somehow, which I'm not 100% sure why that still works, but that's the idea with the private aura. And basically what they did is a couple weeks before the raid came out, they were like, oh, man, secret values isn't going to be good enough to stop all the potential abuses of add-ons on these bosses. We are going to change almost all of them to be private auras, but that meant that things that got caught in the crossfire included stuff like Dread Breath on this boss, and now there was no way to customize how it would show up on your frames and make it visible for you on your UI if you were a healer. They did revert that one. Like that one is now no longer a private aura, mercifully. But again, there's still like Avengers Shield on Paladins, I think is still a private aura. All of it is I don't know, it's a mess.
Yeah, I mean, there's just too much junk on your frames still. Like I see some of the screenshots.
Because you have like everybody in the raid has a dot, and that shows up on your frames. Like what?
To be fair, also some of these people don't do justice with their UIs. Like I've seen some of these healing frames, and they're just like they could be.
You got to remember, it's healers making these healer frames, right? Like if they were smart, they'd be playing DPS. So they.
That's true.
But that I feel like people use that to discredit the argument sometimes, right? Like I saw this on Twitter where it's like, like somebody posts like a kind of suspicious UI, and then people are like, "Well, your UI is bad." It's like, yeah, but even if your UI is good, like there's a genuine problem here.
Yeah. It's not to discredit, but it is also true though that some people just have terrible UI. It's like how people use that the classic UI meme, the one with like all those multiple uniframes and multiple like stuff on their screen and bars and stuff. Like people always use that as like an example of WoW add-ons being out of control, right? As kind of, and like people actually take it serious, but this is like kind of like a similar situation where they kind of have these really bad UIs and then they're posting it and making it look so much worse than it actually is. Not that it isn't bad.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's sort of both are true for some of these screenshots, but yeah, I think like even good UIs had a really hard time dispelling Dread Breath in particular was by far the most egregious one. Like, and you could make the argument. I saw some people making the argument like, yeah, this turns it back into a coordination check, right? Where you have to communicate whether you want the dispel or not. But like, that's really tough for a mechanic that shows up in normal difficulty. Are we basically saying like normal difficulty is supposed to require voice chat, and not even just voice chat, right? But like, so because people say like dispel me, and should they be saying dispel their character name? Yes, but like, is that really the big skill check we want to be putting into pugs? Or is the skill check we want to be putting into pugs like identifying which of the 37 debuffs on those frames is the one you're supposed to dispel? None of that seems like the fun kind of skill check that the game can have, nor is it like, oh, we've deleted add-ons, now we can make this, right? Like, well, what?
Well, but you could also make the argument that it's pretty inconsequential in heroic and normal.
Yeah,
like, it'll probably be a problem in Mythic,
world.
but yeah, like right now it's like, okay, well, you can't dispel a fear, but it's fine, like
heroic. That boss is pretty hard on heroic though. But yeah,
it is pretty hard, yeah. But I mean, for different reasons. Like it's not because someone got feared. It's just overall a pretty challenging fight.
I do think that fight's going to be turbo on Mythic. Should be pretty fun to see.
Although, yeah, I mean it's a massive wall on heroic compared to the rest of the bosses.
I'm gearing up for Mythic splits. I think they're going to be super valuable this tier. I'm we'll see what people decide
like
to do next week
or week one.
Week one, yeah, I think week one Mythic splits are definitely on the table because like in the race to world first, especially because the race can't end next week, right? So,
well, are you not going to lose valuable prog time on the later bosses?
Maybe, but you literally can't do anything after you kill Crown of the Cosmos. So if you can kill it this week, any time after that is like wasted time that would have been good to be doing splits.
So how much?
And also you can kill it more easily with extra gear next week, right? So like if it's a 100 pull boss this week, it's probably a 30 pull boss next week. And you'd have like 4 eye level or whatever on people, 2 eye level on people, something like that. So I think
that is true.
It's also one of those things where it's like, do you want to be the first guild to go in there and get saved if you're in the race to world first? Do you want to be the first guild to get saved to all your mains, right?
Okay, but what if one of the guilds goes dark and kills all the bosses, and then say you're stuck in splits and you've only killed 4 bosses, let's say, and you're unable to progress past the 4th boss?
I think things would be different if there was going dark, but nobody can like really go dark for that long with the current events. Like going dark is a thing you can do for like an hour at night, right before your day's over, and then you can maybe squeeze in a couple extra hours like right around the end of the reset, because that's like super good time to do it tactically. But all these are like events where it's like, hey, we're throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars at running this event. We have all these sponsors and stuff. We're gonna go dark for like all of Mythic progression here on week 1. Like, no, you're not. That's not allowed.
That'll be interesting. Definitely looking forward to seeing that.
I don't know. I think it will depend on the tuning, of course, but I do think there's a very good chance that we're going to see there's sort of this interesting arms race where nobody's going to want to go into Mythic early. So there'll be a little bit of a game of chicken for like which guild is actually going to go in there and start that up first in the race to world first.
Well, but if you're doing splits, you kind of have to get in there quick, no? Well,
not necessarily. I mean, it depends on how many bosses you're trying to split, but like, let's just say it gets to Friday or something like that. Because usually, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are split days, and then like half of Friday or something like that. Let's still say they go in on Friday. It's like, okay, you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday if you're liquid. So you have 4 days, I feel like splits are really compelling at that point because, again, you can't lose by starting splits, which you could in the past, right? Like if you start splits on Friday in Manaforge, you could end up realizing like, oh shit, this was another week 1 tier, right? Like, and we've literally can't win anymore because we made this decision. And this time around, that fear is no longer hanging over your head, but instead the knowledge that it is definitely a 2-week tier, and you can definitely get a lot of extra gear by splitting. And you can split again next week during farm too. So it's like learning how to do the split means you kind of get double you get 2 weeks of doing the splits as well. I don't know. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed thing that'll happen, but I am saying it's going to be very tempting depending on what the tuning will be of the bosses. If they're hard enough, like if Veilgore in particular is like a really hard check, but especially if Fallen King Saladar or Veracius are really hard and not splittable. But the thing is, like, the split characters are almost as good as the mains. In that, like, they made 20 characters, right? So, like,
yeah, that is true.
Their second and third best characters coming out of this week are going to be really good. They're going to be, able to do a lot of this. So if they just spend an extra, 6 hours target farming the best stuff out of M+ and sending a Myth Crest weapon craft, something like that, I think they'll be able to cut through several bosses, 3 or 4 times even, maybe.
Yeah, I guess
there's a lot of different ways it could go.
It's really just Veilgore, because if you can kill Veilgore, then surely it's going to be worth it from there.
Yeah, because if you can kill Veilgore as well, you're getting Hero 3 or Myth 3 in your vault as well, which is only one worse than if you can kill Illyria on mains, because that's Myth 4. So like that, at that point, it's definitely worth it to have been doing even if you can only do 2 splits, I think it's probably worth, although maybe it's not because of that lost progression time downside that you mentioned. But if you can do 3 or more, oh my God, that's going to be so beefy, but also absolute chaos and misery depending on the person, like depending on the viewer and the raider. It's going to be one of those things where it's like, okay, let's never ever do this again. All right, you want to do the Patreon question?
Yeah, sure. I'll see you in that.
Yeah, okay. This one is from Dustin. And it says, many times we encounter moments in life where, be it either confidence or sheer idiocy, we decide to roll with it. The famous "fuck it, we ball" quote comes to mind. Coming from a range of different backgrounds, yet all related to WoW, what is everybody's biggest "fuck it, we ball" moment that paid off? Max, was there something during the race? He can't answer. He's not here this week. Did I ever that moment of "fuck it, we'll do it live"? Dorky, has there ever been an important key where you somehow pulled it out of your ass? Frank, you ever just sent a video or a clip live, realizing a mistake, but just sent it anyway? Interesting question. I'm sure Frank will edit in. Actually, he probably won't, because Frank has flown out to the LA site as well this time, so he probably won't have time to do anything more than a cursory edit of this. So,
God damn it, Frank.
Yeah, maybe he'll find the time to put in an answer for this. I will say I recently saw he uploaded a speed run of dying in WoW, which is like many hours of just optimizing the fastest way to die in WoW. But yeah.
Okay, I mean, this one is easy for me.
Go for it.
In WoW, the biggest one is definitely in my first MDI, where we went against Echo, because we did pretty well. We like completely stomped our bracket going up until Echo, and then at that point I was already like, all right, we won. Like, we came for what we accomplished, or we accomplished what we came for. All we wanted to do was just qualify for global finals, and I was already like stoked about that. And then we were up against Echo for our final match, and I was just like, fuck it, like, we've already done what we came here for, so let's just go in there and just have fun, fuck around. I wasn't even bothering practicing for, or like getting prepared for an Echo match. I even told my team, I was like, fuck it, like, we'll just like have fun. It's gonna be chill. And we actually ended up beating Echo in the cup, which was pretty fucking awesome.
I remember that one. I remember the it's like you beat them in both the upper bracket and the grand finals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you like 4-0'd them or something. I guess 4-2'd them, maybe.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. That was crazy. That reminds me of, I don't know if you watch any league, but G2 6-0'd the LCK at the recent first stand tournament, which is a
and
crazy
lost to
thing.
BLG.
Yeah, it was crazy. For a brief period of time, they were a Western team, and now they're a European team again. That's how that works. When they're winning, they're a Western team.
Dude, I never understood that, actually. Like, I don't know how much we want to talk about this, but like, I don't understand how is it that the Korean teams are just like all over the place. Like, how is it that T1 and KT, who were the grand finalers for Worlds, both didn't even make it, right, or something like that? And
Yeah.
Gen.G is like one of the most dominant teams ever, and they just get fucking swept by GT like that.
Well, Gen.G, like, there's been, I think for the past 6 years, 5 of them, they've been like overwhelming favorites the whole year long, and then always choked at some point in Worlds, right? Like the best they do is quarterfinals or something, and then there's a disaster. And every year it's like, okay, it's not going to happen this year. This team is the best they've ever been. They're so good. You know, they're the best ever. And then they just womp womp at some point. But this time, yeah, happening at first stand is earlier, I think, than it happened. Usually it happens at Worlds. So
yeah, it's so strange. Like it's like the equivalent of that would be if like the Echo team, they just like are complete dog shit. They can't even like push top 10 world keys, and then they just like show up in global finals and they just like completely stomp.
Yeah, which sometimes with Echo in particular, they've had like moderate bad time trials or whatever, and then done that. But that's, you always knew that it's like, oh, they just didn't, like somebody was AFK for 2 days of time trials or whatever, right? Like,
and even then, they're usually still like up there.
Yeah, it's usually bad time trials for them is like third. It's not like 20th or something. Yeah. No, it's weird. It's a strange esport league. There's like, I guess there's like meta stuff that I don't understand. I saw some quote about like drafting, how like drafting got solved on that patch over the course of the tournament, and G2 were better on that than the LCK teams were, but I am not 100% sure I believe that.
Yeah, because
I like watching League, even though I'm not good at it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't play League at all, but I like to watch it occasionally.
To answer the question, I don't know if I have a big fuck it we ball moment. I guess there's been some of the times where I've forgotten to hit start recording, and I've just sent the summarize what we talked about into the camera strat to try and make the episode still publishable. But so I guess that counts because that's sort of covering up a mistake, which I think is some of the spirit of the question here. Yeah. In terms of like actual gameplay, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, it's usually hard to think of those kind of moments.
Yeah,
they kind of just happen.
Yeah, sometimes you like. I guess I can think of like if you think about like clutch moments on bosses. I remember on our progression kill of Painsmith, there was like a misplaced trap that is like if somebody died when they were placing a trap, it would just get put in a random spot on the platform. And so it was like very much going to wipe us because the spikes were going to hit it. But I was able to like call out to the other tank who was in melee, like, okay, you break 2, and then I'm going to roll out and break that one. And then you break the 4th, right? And I was able to like time it and coordinate it. And then we were able to do it and kill the boss. So, but that was more of like a epic clutch Fortnite poggers moment rather than a fuck it, we ball, I think, by the definition of the question.
That's like an evade clip moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where it's like, if that had been on the race world first, everybody would have been glazing the hell out of me for, it's like the fired up, the fired up kind of clip, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I talk about.
Yeah, or the THD Ansarek gateway. All good plays. Love to see it. All right. Well,
by the way, hold on. Before we finish, have you seen the MDI?
Yeah.
What they've done?
I've watched it several times.
No. I'm saying like what they've done with.
Yeah.
The announcement for MDI.
Yeah, I guess that came out between. Yeah, so we should say what's in that. It's back to speed running for this time from key pushing, and it queues to BlizzCon. And it's going to be
6 months.
Yeah, it queues into BlizzCon this season, so pretty hype.
But also, what does that mean for BlizzCon? Like, or what does that mean for the season? Is this just gonna be a longer season than normal, or what?
I don't know. Who's to say? I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, if it's happening on BlizzCon and if we're still in season 1 by September, that means we're probably expecting the next patch to be, or next season to be like maybe October. I don't know. That seems crazy though.
All I know is that it'll be hyped to have everybody at BlizzCon. That'll be cool. You should compete. Are you gonna play this MDI?
No, there's no way. I don't even know who's going to compete in this MDI. It seems completely cooked. having to
so there's the
practice
mandatory
from-
team, right, which is basically like
Oh yeah, there's that too. Yeah,
the Mira's Jinji is Ryzen? Is that who's on
Ryzen?
the
Yeah,
lines? Yeah,
Ryzen, Maysteen, and Kush.
Yeah, so it's basically like a lot of old former Echo people now are on that one, and then like now I don't know what team he'll play with, if he'll play this MDI.
I think they were trying to figure out if they can get Zalia and form their own team, but yeah, that's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, because there's only 3 spots for Western teams at BlizzCon. It's like there's one spot that's guaranteed for China, so it's you have to be one of the 3 best teams in the West. So if you assume that like one of those is going to be mandatory, that's tough, right? Like that's there's now only 2 spots that everybody else is kind of playing for, if you assume that team is going to be as sick as kind of a lot of people are assuming it will be.
I also don't know how many people want to compete in this tournament because, like I said, like having it in practice for 6 months is kind of absurd.
Yeah, getting to go to BlizzCon though is you know, that's I'd say it's more of a motivation than usual, right? But the thing is, I guess the people that can actually win MDI probably have been playing most MDIs anyways, right? So it's like they were already playing. So yeah, maybe just the practice time would be more important to them. I don't know.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to cover.
Cool. All right. Well, you got raid soon, so that's gonna be it for this episode of the PoddyC. Don't know when we'll be back. Don't know what it'll be. Don't know if I'll be there. I know pretty much for sure, unless we don't have a podcast for several weeks, Max probably won't be there. Frank's going to be at the race though, so maybe we can rope him into doing a podcast, in person. That could be possible. We'll see if we can figure something out. But yeah, or dorki. If I go unreachable again for a couple of weeks, maybe you run you get a couple of your friends to take over the podcast another episode or something. We'll see. Let us know in the comments what you want, and then we will ignore them and do whatever we want. Thanks for watching. Adios.
Adios.